Welcome back to WIT's Guide to STEAM, the podcast where we talk about real women in technology. I'm your new host, Nicole Smith, and we are joined here today with Halle. She's a very familiar face here at Spark Studio. Halle was the old host for this podcast, but she's just recently graduated, so we wanted to get her on to talk about her graduation and what's next in the cards for her. Hello, Halle.
Hi, Nicole.
How are you?
I am doing wonderful. First of all, I am so excited to be back here in the Spark Studio, a place that, like Nicole said, I know all too well. And I am even more excited to be in here in the Spark Studio with you. I am so proud of you for taking on WIT's Guide to STEAM. I know you're going to do absolutely amazing.
Thank
so
you.
Y'all should stay tuned. She's going to do amazing things. And so, yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. How has it been going after graduation?
Oh my gosh, it has definitely been an interesting process. I think that, trying to navigate into what's the next big thing is a question that people have now asked me a lot. And that's still something that, I'm trying to figure out. But it has definitely been a learning experience and definitely taught me qualities like patience and perseverance. So I'm making the best of it right now and excited for what's to come.
Yeah. So to start out, we really don't know much about you. We know that you were the host and you got to talk to other people and learn about their experiences, but we definitely want to take a moment to talk about you. So let's start with your early life. What was that like?
Yeah, definitely a big loaded question right there. But yeah, early growing up, I was always immersed in the arts. My mom was a teacher. She taught math for several years and then later switched into becoming an art teacher. So she kind of had the best of both worlds when it comes to STEAM. And my dad, he actually worked at his family radio station. And so I got the opportunity to be able to become used to talking on, on air, live on air, which definitely helped prepare me for this podcast. But yeah, growing up, I did ballet a lot. My parents, they put me in classes because they were like, she has way too much energy. We need to find something to harness that now. Hence why I think I've always been drawn to the arts. And more recently into STEM, it's definitely been a great interaction with this podcast. But yeah, growing up, I was a big bookworm, always loved learning constantly. I think that's something that I now am able to take in with me now of becoming a lifelong learner. But yeah, and I danced for several years. I ended up going to dance a little bit at Huntsville Ballet, which is a place that I interned at most recently. And I, it was a big difference once I started doing that because growing up, I went to a private school and then I eventually transferred to public school and then finally did online school. So I kind of have the best of all three worlds when it comes to that. Did online school because of ballet, so I think that definitely ended up helping me when transferring to, online college classes. But those are just a fun little few tidbits about me.
Yeah. So we know that you graduated from UAH. Were there any other colleges that you were thinking of when you first graduated high school?
Oh, gosh. I'm trying to step back into the lens of my 18-year-old self. And, honestly, back then, I really did not know what I wanted to do. I think that is something that overwhelmed me because all I had really known was, after graduating high school, it kind of seemed like it was that imposter syndrome of, okay, everybody knows what they want to do with their life, and I don't. Right. But really, everybody's still just trying to figure it out. I, had a few places in mind, but I started out actually at Northeast Alabama Community College. It was about 10 minutes away from where I lived. And so, and my parents kind of made that decision for me. They were like, you can still try to figure out what you want to do when it comes to community college. You can kind of take that time and use those 2 years to figure it out. So that way then you can be able to transfer somewhere that, you can find something to specialize in.
Right.
And I'm really actually grateful for that, because I think it kind of put a little bit of pressure off of me, because I felt like there were so many options when it came to four-year universities. Right. I was like, I have no idea. Everybody's going to Bama, to Auburn, UAH, like UNA, everywhere. And so I'm really grateful for that experience, and to be able to, learn at a, convenient pace and close to home too. Right. But my, college journey, I switched my major a few times, actually. I started out with general studies because I had no idea what I wanted to do. And since I had stopped doing ballet, I ended up doing theater for a little bit, and so I transferred my major over to theater, right. Had a blast, and then once I graduated from Northeast, I was kind of like, okay, well, I think I want to pursue theater as a hobby. It's really fun, but I was like, I think that there's still something out there that right, exactly. can, give me the energy and, excitement about learning, because I had always loved English, psychology, right. like all of a mixture of things. And I was like, I want something that takes concepts from everything. And so I did a career test, actually, and it said communication arts. And I was like, what is that? And
that's so fun that you were just like took a test.
It was a career test, actually, that I did at Northeast right before I graduated. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, it was kind of fun, honestly. I love personality quizzes and tests and stuff like that. So it was really fun. So I took it and just ran with it. And so I did a little bit of research afterwards, though, of course. That's something that's very important to do. Research your major. That's very important. But I ended up doing a little bit of research and learned that, it was a field that you could use various skills, like, kind of the performing aspect if you are, giving a statement to the press as right. As a spokesperson, or you can hone in those, writing skills with writing press releases and statements. And also I started to love social media, growing up as Gen Z. Social media has kind of been a part of our, right. life since the beginning of time, it feels like. And so being able to incorporate that, social media as well. And I also kind of fell in love with marketing too. And it kind of has a little bit of an aspect about that too, It's not all directly fully related, but it's kind of a mix of things.
Communications is like a very umbrella sort of term.
It is. And I think that I really enjoyed that, because I, I'm still trying to figure out what I really want to do, because
it's hard when you have like such a umbrella kind of major, because there's so many things that you can do. Like it's so useful for so many different jobs. So,
exactly. Yeah. But I think that actually is what excites me, is because I think that the opportunities are limitless. I think that one of my biggest fears going into college was that I would find a major that would really limit me, and I'd only be stuck doing one thing.
Yeah,
and because that's something that, I think that I really enjoy adaptability, being able to, learn new things. Like I said, constantly learning all the time. And so being able to transfer that into a career that is constantly changing, because right. I mean, we all know that, communication and PR and marketing before, social media and the internet was totally different than it is now. And, who knows in the future how it's going to be several years later. It's always adapting and evolving. Right. So I really enjoyed that.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
To be part of that bigger picture, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So I want to talk a little bit about your college career.
Okay.
I'm in engineering, so this is like a foreign world to me. We have completely different classes. Yeah. So I would really like to just kind of delve into your favorite classes.
Oh, gosh. That is such a hard question because I fell in love with so many of the courses that I took. Off the top of my head, actually, the one that really solidified that I loved the program of communication arts was actually a class called Persuasion. And that class was taught by Dr. Saunders, and basically it covered the different elements of persuasion throughout the course. And one of my favorite things about the class, it brings out my inner nerd, is we had a week called Cult Leader Week. And so throughout that week, or prior to that week, we were assigned a cult leader to learn about, how they used persuasion to do, not so ethical things. And we also, of course, in that class, we also learned how to ethically persuade individuals. That is very important. But we learned what not to do through Cult Leader Week. Right. And I think I'm trying to remember which individual I researched, but throughout that week, it was so much fun to, be able to use the topic of Cult Leader Week, a topic that, I'm sure that there's so many Netflix documentaries and however many, different podcasts talking about that, being able to actually analyze it through the lens of the concepts being taught in the course of, using ethos, lothos, and pathos to be able to persuade individuals. Logos is the way of, using logic to persuade individuals, while pathos is using emotion. You've seen those commercials of, sad puppies or whatever with the sad song, in the arms of the angels. Yeah. That's using pathos right there of playing to the emotions.
Those commercials when I was a kid.
Know. It's all, persuasion. And of course ethos, credibility, being a credible individual of, why should I listen to you? But it was just so interesting being able to learn all of those concepts, and I really enjoyed that class. And oh my gosh, of course, I loved Intro to Public Relations. That one was so much fun. I learned how to write a press release, newsletter, blog. Oh gosh, a lot of things, a lot of tangible things that are really important if you are going into PR, because you have to do a lot of writing.
You get to cosplay about of Samantha Jones.
I get to, no, I get what you're saying. It took me a second. Love her, love Samantha Jones.
She's in PR,
Yes. So that was very fun. And so I really enjoyed that class. It kind of gave me the overview of the do's and don'ts in PR. Kind of similar along the lines in persuasion. And then one of the upper level classes, I could talk about all the classes all day. I loved every single one of them, but these are just a few of the highlights. One of my more recent classes that was an upper level class was crisis communication. I don't know if you've seen the show Scandal, but basically that's kind of, it's a show that revolves around crisis PR of, oh my gosh, this huge horrible thing happened. How are we going to respond super quickly?
Right.
It's not all like that. It's definitely more strategic and very much less glamorous. But one of my favorite things was being able to do a mock disaster simulation with the UAH nursing department. So the UAH ComArts class, crisis communication class, ended up serving as the PR team for the UAH College of Nursing. Basically, the scenario was a winter storm had happened, and so all of the local hospitals were closed, and so UAH was taking in non-critical patients. And throughout the disaster simulation, we would see the nursing students in their final year, wheeling up patients from the elevator and taking them into triage, and there would be psych patients, ER, or oh gosh, I'm trying to think of the different the different sections, but there was anything you could think of in a hospital, there was that. I remember seeing, and of course, all of the actors, I think, they collaborated with the theater department to provide the actors. And so those actors did a great job. It was very realistic. We could kind of see it. It was very crazy, but we had to create a press release that was, completed in just a few minutes. I was the public information officer, so I had to address the press, asking really tough questions, asking about the credibility of the nursing department.
So much fun.
It was so much fun, honestly. I'm still geeking out about it to this day. It was so much fun. But yeah, they would ask questions like, why are the nursing students credible? They're still students, and, asking a ton of questions, but it really taught me to think quick on my feet. And, if I don't know something, don't pretend that I know something, be like, hey, I don't know that. I will get that to you as soon as possible. So it was a lot of fun. So those are just a few overview of classes that I've had.
That sounds awesome. Why am I jealous?
I mean, hey, there's always ComArts classes available. Show us some love.
Okay, so while you're taking these incredible classes, you're also working a few internships. Do you want to kind of touch on what kind of internships you had while you were in college?
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. So first of all, the one that you all are familiar with, I was a social media coordinator with the I2C and with its affiliate, WIT Huntsville. Woo woo! So I hosted the two podcasts, WIT's Guide to STEAM and WIT Talk. And it was an absolutely amazing experience. WIT Talk was a podcast that was already published and established. And I remember Rigved saying what idea do you have for WIT? What idea do you have that would be interesting? And I was like, I think we should do a video podcast. And he was like, okay, do it, have fun with it. And so it was a great experience for me to get, hands-on learning on, how to set up a podcast, how to write scripts, produce, like all of the things that, go into it. It was so beneficial.
Yeah.
And also, it definitely taught me how to be bold, because I think a lot of people don't realize, the whole process behind the scenes of podcast creation. It first starts with being really bold and having to, go out on a limb and, be really, kind of humble about it.
Reach out to people.
Exactly. You have to be like, hey, please.
Yeah.
Not really like that, but that's kind of what I was thinking of, please. But it was a really great experience being able to get that hands-on experience and create something fun. And I also hosted WIT Talk. That was really fun, being able to carry on the legacy of WIT Talk and be able to be introduced to so many amazing people through each of the podcasts. And then also for the I2C social media, I did the series Faces of the I2C. That one was so much fun. Something beautiful about the I2C is the way that it hosts various tech companies within the building, and they each cover, various different niches. And so I was so inspired by that, and I was like, I think that, I want them to be able to have an opportunity to talk about themselves and what they do, because I think people would be so interested in that.
Yeah, and I feel like most people don't even know that I2C exists. So like your series really kind of opened people up to the I2C, because you were talking to like real people that like come here and work, and like that could also be someone in the audience one day, what I mean?
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I think that one was so much fun. The series was so much fun because it was very laid back. I wanted it to be an environment where they felt comfortable to talk about themselves, because I know how, daunting it can be being in front of the camera. So that was such a great opportunity to be able to, hopefully make them feel, as a part of the I2C community and ecosystem. And then my other internship for my senior seminar class. So a little bit of background. At UAH in the Commerce Department, one of the final classes you have to take is called Senior Seminar. And so you can either do a thesis or you can do an internship. And so I chose the internship option, and I decided I wanted to intern at Huntsville Ballet, the place that I used to dance at earlier that I mentioned, because I felt like it would be a great opportunity to use the skills that I had learned at the I2C and transfer it into an arts environment as well, because I found that it would be very, fun to have that balance of the I2C and Huntsville Ballet to showcase adaptability. And so at my time at Huntsville Ballet, I had a blast there. Something that was really fun was creating the social media campaigns for Huntsville Ballets, both their school and for their company. So it's kind of like the duality of the I2C and WIT, being able to try to recognize the difference between the brands, because that's really important. And so for the fall show, they had a fall show, Huntsville Ballet did, and it showcased a totally new ballet. And so I was tasked with, okay, how are we going to get this out to people to make them interested? And so, showing a little few behind the scenes clips and, doing a few interviews, trying to showcase everybody's passion about the performance, was really fun. And then also for the school, being able to showcase credibility through instructor videos, giving corrections, and also just scenes from in class. So I really enjoyed being able to have the duality of the arts and STEAM within those two internships. Yeah. So it was a blast.
Yeah, that seems really, really cool.
Thank you.
Going back to the I2C internship.
Yeah.
What are some lessons that you learned from the guests that you would like to relay to our audience?
Oh, man. That is hard because there were so many amazing lessons that I learned. I feel like I could, compile them all into a list and it would be multiple pages long. But, oh my gosh, give me a second to think on that, actually, if it's okay.
It's a hard question.
No, it's okay.
Well, you just meet so many different kinds of people. I bet there's so many different things from so many different kinds of people that are applicable to you.
Oh, for sure. I think that off the top of my head was Kimberly Burge's podcast, or the episode with her. She talked about her overcoming imposter syndrome, which is something that I think a lot of individuals face regardless of at what point in their career they are. And so being able to learn more about yourself, she talked about, learning your leadership style as a CEO. That was something that was really effective for her. And also, being able to take a step back and realizing her own authenticity within herself before becoming an authentic leader. That was something that was really important that I learned. Also, something that was really great to hear was from Maya Toro. She, or Maya Echeverri Toro, that was so interesting to hear was, don't be afraid to speak up, especially, regardless of what field you're in and regardless of what individual you are. It's important to speak up and to make your voice heard, because you are going to be, your biggest advocate, because, you have to advocate for yourself first. And so to not be afraid to speak up is something that was really important, I learned. And with Via Edwards, I learned about the importance of finding your own community, getting involved in different organizations. And, community is something that everybody can find, and you just have to look for it.
Right.
So those are all really important lessons that I learned, and oh my gosh, there are so many more that I could continue to talk about, but those are just a few off the top of my head. I mean, oh my goodness. Watch all the previous videos to find out. Subtle plug.
We can't spoil too much for you.
Exactly.
What was your biggest challenge in your college career, you think?
Oh, gosh. That's a really good question right there, first of all. I think one of the biggest challenges was being confident in myself and knowing my own worth. I think that, like I was talking earlier, imposter syndrome happens to hit everybody regardless at what point they are in their career.
Right.
And I think that, it's important to make sure that, you're focusing on yourself, not comparing yourself to other individuals and the progress that they are making or, the different path that they are taking. I think that, being confident in myself and what I was doing and, the steps that I was taking throughout my journey, starting off at community college, I really was not sure of what I wanted to do. And, I was really worried about, oh my gosh, am I going to be behind, and that was just my own mental roadblock that I put in my head. And I think that similar along those lines of realizing that a lot of the stumbling blocks are mental.
Right.
And being able to take a step back and reassess and realize that a lot of it is mental, that was a big game changer for me because, you, of course, can be your biggest advocate, but sometimes you can be your biggest enemy, too, if you, let that get to you. So I think that was an important lesson that I learned that I am definitely going to take on in my future career.
Now we can move along to the really good stuff.
Oh,
not that the stuff before hasn't been really good. But what does it feel like to be graduated now? Is it free? Is it awesome? Is it the best thing that you've ever experienced in your life, or what?
Okay, so I am going to say the phrase that you hear a lot of people harp on over and over and over again when you're in your final semester of college. It goes by so fast. And that's what a lot of people say, but it is true. It genuinely felt like I was speed running through my final semester at college, and because, of course, so much was going on, but also just because I forced myself to try to enjoy it because it was the last semester.
Right.
I, encouraged myself to savor every moment of it because it was going by so fast. But now that I'm out, it's extremely exciting. There's a world of limitless possibilities that are going to be next. So yeah, it's very exciting. It's very surreal. I mean, I still, catch myself laughing and saying like, whoa, I did that, that was, I saw a video the other day that was talking about, take a step back and, take a moment to appreciate the accomplishments that you have made, despite, everything that has happened to you.
Right.
Just think about that. And so that was a really good, encouragement moment. So, yeah, it's been very exciting.
Yeah, it sounds exciting. Now that you're graduated, I'm assuming you're kind of looking for a job. You've only been graduated for a short time.
Yeah.
What is your eventual dream job that you would like to have?
Oh, gosh, you are just hitting me with some hard questions today, girl. I think that, man, that's multifaceted because I think right now I'm still in that process of figuring out what brings joy. That's something that I hope for in a dream job,
something that's fulfilling.
Yeah, exactly. Something that's meaningful that gives me purpose, that, you know, I feel confident in, and I feel like I can make a difference in a positive way. That's something that's really important to me. But also, you know, somewhere that, you know, it's like that phrase, there's a phrase that people say of, you know, like, if you love your job, you never have to work a day in your life. You know, that's what I aspire to have as a dream job. But who knows what that could look like? You know, who knows if that could be, you know, being a head of a PR agency one day, or, you know, being a publicist, or doing social media. You know, who knows? The possibilities are limitless. And right now, you know, I'm still trying to, you know, keep my you know, fields that I'm interested in open, because I think I'm going to try to take the approach of, you know, whatever's meant to be is meant to be, and you know, it will lead into something beautiful. So I have no idea what it is yet, but I'm very excited.
Well, let me just say that I've never met someone that's more capable of doing whatever she wants to do. So,
girl, you're gonna make me cry.
If that gives you some peace, then. What advice would you like to give to recent graduates in comm arts, but also in other fields as well?
Yeah, for sure. I think, first of all, something that I want to say is, do not let people discourage you based on your major. I know that, you know, that comm arts, you know, get some slack sometimes about, you know, like, what even is it? But everybody is always going to need public relations. Everybody is going to get themselves in situations that they need help getting out of. Everybody
AI will never be able to replace you.
Exactly. Everybody is going to need that person. And so consider yourself, you know, in those moments where you do start to get discouraged, you know, remember that of, you know, you are going to be needed. And those people that are saying that to you right now, they're going to need somebody too. They just don't realize it yet. So think about the bigger picture. That's something that's always really important. And be patient. I know that that is something that I'm still trying to work on. It is, you know, it is bigger, you know, it's harder said than done. Or wait, hold on. It's harder done than being said. It's easier said than done. My goodness, my brain is like fried today.
It's okay, girl.
Here, I'll restart saying that over.
You have a lot on your plate.
It's easier said than done, but, you know, patience is something that is really important, especially right after you graduate. And also, something that I've learned throughout my college journey that I'm going to take hold on to in my future career, and hopefully can pass on to other individuals, is that, you know, there's no set timeline. There's no set timeline on when you graduate. There's no set timeline on when you start college. There's no set timeline on figuring out your major. There's no set timeline on figuring out your dream job. Likewise, there's no set time limit on, you know, being able to, you know, jumpstart into that first, you know, career. So don't get discouraged about, you know, all of those things. It's very, you know, it's very easy to say, but it is something that's really important to take into perspective. And I'm trying to hold on to that even now of, you know, that it's okay if things don't happen, you know, as quickly as, you know, other people may like. You know, it's everybody's path is different. And so take that into account. That's something that's really important to remember. So there's no set timeline.
Yep. And I'm going to ask the worst question that I think I have. Okay?
Oh, no. I'm scared.
Where do you want to be in 10 years? Where is Halle Huber going to be in 10 years?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, hopefully happy. That is the biggest thing, you know, more than hopefully. I am, you know, of course wanting to be, you know, happy, and of course being in a career that I feel like I'm being fulfilled in, feeling like I'm, you know, making a difference, specifically with what's, huge career I'll be having by then. Not sure, you know. Maybe a CMO, you know, chief marketing officer, or a publicist, fancy. You know, who knows? I'm trying to keep my, you know,
Samantha
dreams.
Jones?
Yes, I'm trying to keep my dreams big and keep on pushing and pushing until hopefully I get to whatever that big dream job is. But, you know, of course, being happy and, you know, continuing to learn. I think that also is something that I want to see myself in 10 years, you know, and, you know, constantly feeling inspired, you know, hoping to, you know, be able to, you know, get out there and do a ton of amazing things. But I think the biggest thing is being happy.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's so cliche, I know.
No, but it's so real. Like, everyone wants to be happy.
And again, you know, it's okay if you don't know what you want to do. I am still in that phase, and
you have to look at it as like an opportunity.
Exactly.
Like, you have so many things that you can do.
Exactly.
You don't even know what you want to do.
Exactly. The sky's the limit. Exactly. So I'm very happy about that.
Exactly. Well, all right, Halle, it has been such a pleasure having you.
It's been so great being back here, Nicole.
Yes, you're my favorite guest, even though you're my only guest so far. So
I'm taking that as the highest compliment. And you are the best interviewer I have had. Of course, you're the only interviewer I have had, but still, likewise.
And I just want to do a shout out if there are any employers watching this and would like to hire our wonderful Halle Huber. Genuinely, she is so capable of doing anything that you need her to do. I can't imagine someone that's better at pretty much everything. So,
girl, you're going to make me cry.
Yeah. So our inbox is open for any inquiries.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Nicole.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in to WIT's Guide to STEAM. Again, thank you, Halle, for joining us.
Of course.
And we're going to miss you around here. So.
I'm going to miss y'all. Yeah. But I know that y'all are going to do amazing things, and I can't wait to see what opportunities you have in store as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.